Hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you today. We miss you. We're glad that you can be at your chapter meeting this month. Today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Craig Earnshaw, and he's been on the board of the Academy just a few months. He and I had the privilege of going to Brazil during the month of June and part of July to pilot some stuff, the curriculum down in Brazil. He's a successful entrepreneur, and he loves Brazil, and he was a mission president in Brazil, and he served a mission as a young man in Brazil. So he's Mr. Brazil. But he's here today to teach you in the Philippines and in Africa some incredibly important lessons about entrepreneurship. And so we're glad to have you with us, Craig.
It's good to be here, Jeremy. Thanks for the invitation.
You're welcome. Let's just turn the time over to you. I know we've got a PowerPoint that the chapter presidencies will put up while we're teaching. So you will see us during the video, but we'll tell you when to get to the next slide on your PowerPoint so you can follow along. Does that sound good?
Great.
Great.
Thanks a lot. Today we're going to talk about a really important subject, competitive advantage. So be thinking about that for a minute while I talk to you about something completely different. Go to the next slide.
Okay.
You might recognize the name of Warren Buffett. He was at one point the richest man in the world. He may still be today. I'm not sure who's keeping that scorecard. But I thought we'd first talk about his path to wealth. In 1950, when he was a college student, he had exactly $3,000 to his name. Now, it may sound like a lot to some, but not very much in his case. And just a few years later, after getting out of college, he got his first job. He had a salary of $12,000 a year.
So that's about $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month. And so the point is that he didn't come from a rich background. He didn't come from a rich family. He came from fairly humble beginnings.
Very good.
2 years later, he started his first company. It was an investment fund. And at that point, he had significant savings. So think about this. He went in 2 years, from a salary of $12,000 to a point where he already had $174,000 in savings. So early on, he recognized the importance of saving and investing in himself. And then just 6 years after that, he reached an important milestone for everybody who's going to become very rich, and that was when he first became a millionaire. He first had $1 million worth of assets to his name.
Now, in 1962, having $1 million, Craig, I wasn't alive back then. You were barely alive.
I was barely alive.
That was a significant milestone, a significant achievement.
That was, I don't know what those are in today's dollars, but that was a big number.
Great.
It's still a big number, by the way, but it was a lot bigger then.
Great.
And then in 2008, the last milestone we'll mention is that he was recognized by Forbes magazine as the richest man in the world with a fortune of $62 billion.
Wonderful.
Now,
anybody who's... Should we go to the next slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody who's got $62 billion might be worth listening to, so I thought I would give you four of his sayings, four bits of wisdom from Warren Buffett.
Okay.
The first one is this. He says, rule number one, never lose money. Rule number two, never forget rule number one.
That's, tell us a little bit more about what he means.
Yeah, it sounds kind of silly maybe, but I don't think it is. I think when he speaks, he has an important lesson. And what he's trying to drive home here is the importance of examining what you're doing every day. Do not fall into the trap of saying, I'll get better tomorrow, or I'll fix that tomorrow. If you have a problem, if you're losing money, then it needs to be fixed. Never lose money today. And number two, never forget rule number one, meaning that's the most important rule.
Sometimes I think in our businesses or in your businesses, you may struggle with knowing where you're losing money. And so it's very important to have those records that allow you to see where that money is being lost, and sometimes to make those hard decisions. Maybe you need to let go of an employee. Maybe you need to change suppliers. Or, as the rules of thumb teach us, you need to make a profit every day. I think that correlates with what Warren Buffett is saying.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Okay,
Very good.
We've all agreed. Never lose money.
And never forget rule number one.
Okay. The second one is also pretty good. It takes 20 years to create or to build a reputation and only 5 minutes to lose it. So, when you start a company, what you're doing is building a brand. And your brand is all the places that your customers touch you. At your store, at your any kind of service that you provide, anything after the sale. Those are all your brand. That's all the customer experience. In every single one of those situations, you're at risk. You're building your reputation by giving good client service, but if you mess up, you can destroy it all in just 5 minutes. So this is another way of saying pay attention to the details.
I think maybe some people might say, oh, well, for 20 years, I'm building my personal reputation of who I am as a person. I think that's true. But what I'm learning from you, Craig, is your business has to have a reputation. You have to be known in the community, in wherever you live, as when I think of this business, this is the feeling or the thought that I have regarding that business.
Yeah, we refer to that as brand. And so you're building your brand, and you can kill your brand. We could talk about lots of stories. You can kill your brand easily. Just remember, each time you interact with a customer, you're building the brand, and you're at risk at destroying your brand.
Very good wisdom from Mr. Buffett.
His third rule: price is what you pay, value is what you get. And I think this is just another way of saying, don't become enamored with low price. It's really easy to be a bargain shopper and to always be looking for the lowest price. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but understand that there are trade-offs. And sometimes as you get a lower price, you're actually paying because you're getting you're paying a higher price because you're getting lower quality, and in the end it's going to cost you more. So there's a trade-off, understand the trade-off, and don't always focus on the price. Remember that value is what you get, and what you really want to take home or put to use in your company, or what you want to deliver as a company, is value.
Very good. Let's go on to the fourth pearl of wisdom from Mr. Buffett. Tell us a little bit about number 4.
So he says risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. So business is about taking risk. It's important that we understand that we're taking risk as we go into business. We're putting money and time and our reputation, all kinds of things at risk. But Mr. Buffett says that the true risk comes from not knowing what we're doing. If we know the parameters of our business, if we know our suppliers, if we know exactly how to produce, if we know who we're selling to, if we know the whole process, then we're not really at risk. And he would say then that the business of business is taking risk out of the equation. So then the only risk comes from not knowing what you're doing.
You know, I think we saw this when we were in Brazil, and I've seen it in the Philippines and in Mexico and everywhere else that we've taught the curriculum. A lot of our students and our graduates simply don't know that they don't know. Yeah. Meaning, they think they know, and then we ask them questions like, well, who are your biggest customers? Who buys from you the most often? And why do they buy from you? And what suppliers have you worked with over the last 2 or 3 years? Or what month did you have the most sales? And so I think the way that I would perhaps apply this to our graduates is you have a lot of risk if you don't know what you're doing in your company. And so what Mr. Buffett is saying is, start to measure, start to understand, start to look at the things that are happening within your company so that you can take that risk out.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yep. Get the risk out.
Very good.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Buffett. We'll move on to the subject for today.
Okay.
Which is competitive advantage. So when I talk to people about their businesses, and I do this, it's pretty much what I do. I mentor students at BYU. I mentor small businesses in the rest of my work. The first question I ask is, what do you do? And that sounds like a silly question, but it's amazing how many leaders of companies can't express clearly what they do. But that's not the subject for today, so I'll move on to the second question that I always ask. And that is, what is your competitive advantage? What is your secret sauce? Now, the secret sauce expression comes from McDonald's and the Big Mac. Hopefully you all know what a Big Mac is. Well, hopefully you're not too familiar with it, but if you've had a Big Mac, you'll know that what makes a Big Mac is not the burgers and not the lettuce, not the cheese, but there is a sauce they put in it that gives it the distinctive taste of a Big Mac. That's the secret sauce. It's what sells Big Macs. What is your secret sauce? What is it that you have that causes people to buy from you? Another way to express that is, what do you do better than any of your competitors? And the last way to think about it is, why would I, a customer, buy from you versus one of your competitors? That's the question you have to ask yourself as a business owner.
I think these are two questions that I've noticed, and we noticed in Brazil when we were down there. A lot of our graduates or even our students struggle to ask themselves this question of, wait a second, I can study my competition. I should know what they're doing. I should know who they're selling to and what prices they have. And our counsel is, of course, you have to compare yourself with the competition. If you don't, then you will lose. And so that's sometimes a hard transition for our students, is to say, wait, I have so much to do here. I'm in my company. I'm a carpenter, or I'm manufacturing whatever. I don't have time to go look at my competition. So what would you say to them?
Well, so the first question is, what do you do? And you need to be able to clearly say, what do you do? And then you have to be able to say, why am I better? Why am I better than anybody else out there that's doing the same thing that I'm doing? Because every business has competitors. And if you're not better, then you're just hoping somebody's going to be dumb and buy from you. Because the smart person is going to buy from the best competitor.
Very good.
You want to be the best competitor. You want to dominate your market. You want to be the obvious choice. Whether you're a store on a corner, street corner, or whether you're a store with a storefront, or whatever your business happens to be, the service that you might be offering, you have to be the obvious choice among your competitors so that you can dominate the market.
That is very good advice, and we want to challenge all of you to figure out what is it that you do better than your competition. I think that is a crucial element for all of our graduates who are involved in business to answer.
So let's move on to the next slide and then talk about 3 ways to compete. And these are, maybe they'll be obvious as we talk about them, but it's important to understand that there are these 3 basic ways to compete among competitors, and then you need to decide which one of these you're going to choose to compete on. So let's just talk about the 3. The first one is low price. Obviously, everybody wants to be able to offer the lowest price for the product that they're selling. But if you choose to be the market leader in low price, meaning that you're going to be the lowest price in your market, then you have chosen also to follow these 2 rules. First, you have to always be seeking to buy for less. And what does that mean? That means you have to have multiple suppliers so that you can have competition among your suppliers. You can't be held hostage by a supplier who might want to raise the price on you. And the second is that you have to seek ways to produce for less. So you look at your process, you learn, you always are trying to figure out ways to do it quicker, cheaper, and better, so that you can offer the price or offer the product for less.
So competing on cost is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but it's pretty tough.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Very hard. And so you've got to make sure that you understand that you're able to buy for less and have your suppliers compete against one another, and also create a system that allows you to produce that product or provide that service at a much lower or at a low cost as well.
Yeah, and I guess we should throw in here just something, a danger that you need to be aware of. If you're competing on low price and one of your competitors comes out and lowers their price below yours, and you say, well, then I have to lower mine. No, you don't have to lower yours. If you start selling below your price, if you quit making money in your business, well, you've just killed your business.
Yeah, that's what we call the price war. We don't want to get into a war of prices, because the only person that wins there is the customer, and then you go bankrupt.
Yeah, so you can't fall into that trap. But anyway, the first way to compete is to be the lowest price in the market. And if you choose to do that, you've got a tough road to hoe.
Very
You've got a tough job, but those who pull it off, those companies who can pull it off, they will do very well.
So let's talk about the second competitive advantage.
The second one is to offer the highest quality. Most companies choose to compete on quality. Why would you do that? Because if you have a higher quality product, you can charge a higher price. If you have a higher price, it means you have a higher profit margin, means your life is a little bit easier. But again, there's trade-offs, and if you choose to compete on quality, then you're forced to be aware of what your competitors are doing and you have to always maintain a gap, a lead in quality. Otherwise, you've lost your position of market leadership. So I would encourage you to perhaps choose quality as one of your points of competition, but understand when you do it that you've got to be aware of what's going on around you so you can maintain your position.
One thing that I've always noticed is we go to people, whether it's with Craig or another board member or any entrepreneur that we go and visit Mexico or Brazil or the Philippines, we always ask you, what do you do better than everybody else? And you say, well, I have the best quality. And it turns out that you bought the same tomatoes that the person next to you bought from the same spot. And so when he's talking about quality, it's not always the actual product. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But it could be other things that allow you to compete. And
actually, we're going to talk about that right now.
That leads us into the third competitive advantage.
So the third one is client service. And perhaps this is the easiest of the three. Because why is that? Because most companies forget about client service.
Yes.
They're out there just trying to provide a product at a price, and they don't really care about the customer.
They're surviving.
They're surviving.
Not thriving, they're just surviving every single day.
So if you want to compete on service, the easiest thing to do is just forget about yourself for a minute. Put yourself in the place of the customer, try to understand what their needs are, and then meet those needs. Deliver value to your customer, and you'll have a great business.
Rule of thumb, value your customers. Rule of thumb. Very good.
All right, so just to sum up, there's three options: low price, high quality, and customer service. You need to choose one. By choosing one, by the way, you can't forget about the other two. If you choose, for example, to compete on customer service, you still have to have a low price, you still have to have the highest quality possible, but your focus is on the customer experience. You're trying to make your customer happy. Or if you choose one of the other two, you can't forget about customer service also.
So it's not a one or the other, it's you have to choose one and then supplement with the other two.
Yeah, I would say do all three, but choose one to shine in and choose one that you'll be known for. So when people think of you, they'll think of low price, high quality, or great customer service.
Fantastic. Craig, we want to thank you for being with us today. Did you want to say anything before we part to the students in the Philippines and Africa who get this video?
No, it's been my pleasure. Have a great month. Choose one of these three and really examine how you're running your business and let us know how it goes after you've worked on that for a month.
Great. Well, we love you very much and we hope that you enjoy your video from today and we'll see you later. Bye.